Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. And the next question or comment comes from Morgan Williams in response to how to calibrate the screen on called Kronos. And Morgan writes, random comment, but what kind of digital touchscreen pen do you use for these types of screen on the workstone, or do you have a preference on a good pen? Have been having trouble finding any reviews for what's best on keyboard type screens. It's very interesting, but we call these pens, and I haven't got one here to show you, but I will put a link to Amazon down below this video for those of you who want to go and find the pens that I use. But in the house I live in, we call them dibbers. And the issue is that the ends are not suitable for the delicate screens. So that's the reason why we've been using these dibbers. And they've got a lovely, quite a sincere sweet spot on them for getting fine detail on screens like the Kronos or the Jupiter 80, which has got particularly small boxes that you need to press, and my fat fingers don't work. Now the funniest thing is that I actually have been staying in a hotel over the last couple of years, and they have given me a load of their pens, which advertises their hotel, of course, and they work really well. The problem with them is they're not particularly great for drag and drop processes, as the rubber on them quickly disintegrates. So if you imagine you've got a pen and you've got a rubber tip, obviously the biro bit goes through the rubber tip, and when you drag and drop those over like an iPad or something like that, the rubber gets pulled apart and it eventually disintegrates, which is a pain, but that's reality. Anyway, I've been using these for a number of years. There's a link below for Amazon, a company called Metro. They do nice pens that seem to suit keyboards. So guys, if you want to use them, go and get them. They have a clip so you can attach them to the cover or stick them in the biro link. And they're about 10 quid for, was it 10 quid? Yeah, four pack was about 10 quid, and then you can get spare tips for about 10 quid as well. Hope that helps. The next comment, query, question comes from Dare to Win in response to an SMR I did about the Roland A-80, the D05 and Don Muru. And he wrote, I've wanted this controller so badly for years, I keep missing opportunities, or the pricing just goes wrong. I think the interesting thing about the Roland A-80 is that there are not many of them come up for sale. I think I was quite lucky with mine. Mine came up for sale and I bid for it. And because it looked like it had damage on it, I don't think a number of other people bid for it. And yes, it does have a bit of damage on it, but I've managed to remove most of it by carefully working with things like isopropyl alcohol, etc., just to lift the stuff off the keyboard. It wasn't a particularly easy or quick process, I might add, but I've got it to a point where I'm quite happy with it now. You know, it's a legacy keyboard. It's going to have a few knocks and bangs on it as it comes along the way. But in terms of does it work? Yes, it works perfectly. One of the things about, of course, the A80 and the Yamaha KX88, I think it is that they were really designed for the professional musician on stage. So you turned up with your keyboard, you could program your keyboard with all your scenes, and it would just start then sending all the commands to all the relevant modules to set you up for the next song, the next patch, etc. So from that perspective, that was really, really good. Now, what's really interesting was I wrote this comment from just after I'd been to see Genesis last year, and in the segment they do like an up close and personal segment, and in that segment Tony Banks actually plays an A-80, so he's obviously got an A-80 which he's using effectively as a MIDI controller back to his bank of instruments that sits on the right hand side of the stage. So if you look at the stage in Genesis, you have Sturmer, Rutherford, Collins, Nick Collins now, would have been Chester Thompson, and then Tony Banks. That's how the stage layout, and that's how the stage layout always is. But when they do the up close and personal stuff, Tony swaps sides, and effectively Sturmer is over this side, Rutherford's there, Collins is there, Banks is there. But he does play a Roland A-80. And of course, one of the pieces they do during that segment is Follow You, Follow Me, which is one of my favourite Genesis songs from the Then There Were Three album. And those that follow the channel know I'm a huge Genesis fan. I have been for years, since I was introduced to Genesis by my German pen pal's big brother in 1982 or something like that. It was many years ago. Anyway, I do kind of wonder what other keyboards that Tony has sitting in the storage down at Fisher Farm. It's really interesting when you see somebody on stage, and I kind of digress from the comment really. But when we went to see Genesis in concert, he was sitting on stage and he didn't have any new keyboards. I was kind of expecting him to have a Nautilus, because Tony has kind of been in the Korg fold for a number of years, and he didn't have a Nautilus on stage. What he actually had on stage was he had an Oasis, he had a wave station, and he had a controller on stage. And then, as I say, he had this Roland A-80 controller which he was using during the up close and personal segment. And then most of the stuff he was doing, apparently the Oasis was generating sounds, but the other two keyboards weren't generating sounds. So a lot of the stuff he was doing was actually being generated through a bunch of VSTs, and I can't for the life of me think there was what the VST suite he was using. I do know what it is, but I can't for the life of me while I'm talking to camera think about what it is. But it was very, very interesting just to see the whole sort of Genesis setup, and not one of Tony's keyboards was either a Kronos or a Nautilus, and that really did surprise me, because I would have thought, being Genesis, that Korg would have wanted to get their flagship synthesizers on the stage in front of Tony, given the fact that these shows are going to be video and going to be watched by prog rock Genesis fans around the world. But Korg didn't have one of their latest synths up there. They had the Oasis, and maybe it's just because Tony likes playing the Oasis. I mean, the keyboard on the Oasis is better than the Kronos. That's my personal view. A number of people have commented the same way. So, yeah, there you go.